Hello, welcome. Mondays with Maja, number which one?
40?
I think it's number 15. So, number 15, happy Victoria Day. It's the long weekend. So, today we are talking about embracing the good. Embracing the good and self-appreciation. Thank you to everybody who's showing up on a long weekend. Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. Embracing the good. So everything that I'm talking about today is a runoff from that great workshop training that I attended last week that I told you all about. I was so excited to get to meet and be trained by Dr. Neff. Self-compassion, the leading researcher in self-compassion. So everything that I'm talking about today is what she was teaching us last week. And if you want to take what I'm talking about to the next level, you can do her workbook that she did with Christopher Germer. And I'll do a story about these afterwards to show you these books. But okay, so last week we spoke about self-compassion, and one of the great benefits of self-compassion is how it can actively generate positive emotions for us. It can actively generate positive emotions for us. So today we are talking about embracing the good in us, which is so difficult. It's so difficult for us to embrace our good qualities and to appreciate ourselves, but we've got to do it. So typically we are way more likely to focus on the negative, to remind ourselves of all the little things that we messed up on, to remind ourselves of our mistakes. So what we do so often is we magnify the negative in any experience that we do, and we minimize the positive. And it's become this really distorted way of thinking and believing. And there is a psychological term for why we are more likely to focus on the negative about ourselves, and it's called negativity bias. Negativity bias. Rick Hansen once said that the brain is like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good. Hello. So why do we have a negativity bias? Why do we have a negativity bias? So back in the day, our ancestors were worried about physical danger at any given time, worried about being attacked, worried about finding food. And that worry and heightened level of stress was good for them because that meant that they were more likely to survive. But in today's world, that hyper awareness of where danger could come from doesn't serve us well, right? And so self-compassion as a tool helps us to be aware of that negativity bias within ourselves and to correct it, to be aware of it, to acknowledge it, that it's there, but then to correct it. So what do we need to do? Research shows that you can't just think positive thoughts. You have to intentionally recognize and absorb positive experiences. You have to intentionally recognize and absorb positive experiences to develop a more realistic and balanced awareness that isn't so skewed to the negative, right? And like everything else that we do in life, this doesn't come naturally. It doesn't come easily. This requires training, and this requires active work, and it requires patience. Because for so long, we have trained ourselves to always look at the negative, to always remind ourselves of everything that we messed up on. And now we have to switch that and look at the failure as information while simultaneously recognizing the good within us. And research shows that we are much better at recognizing the mistakes that we've made and how we can turn them into learning opportunities rather than recognizing the good within ourselves. So there is a researcher by the name of Barbara Fredrickson, and she developed a theory called broaden and build. Broaden and build. And that is what intentionally acknowledging our good qualities and embracing the good is about. So I'll just read you a quote. So it's about the evolutionary purpose of positive emotions is to broaden attention. It's to broaden our attention. When people feel safe and content, they become curious and start exploring their environment, noticing opportunities. This allows us to take advantage of opportunities that would otherwise go unnoticed. So that's one of the beautiful benefits of this, is that you become more curious. You notice opportunities out there. And two of the most studied, researched, and most effective ways in order to cultivate positive emotions is two techniques. One is savoring, and two is gratitude. So let's break them down. So savoring is about noticing and appreciating the good. Noticing and appreciating the good. So appreciating the good in any moment or experience, consciously acknowledging that you're experiencing a moment of joy or happiness or peacefulness, and sort of letting that in, having it linger, swim in that emotion, and then just sort of letting it go and move on into the next emotion. So it is a, quote, mindful awareness of the experiences of pleasure. Mindful awareness of the experiences of pleasure. It's about, in a nutshell, acknowledging when the good is happening to you in the moment. Acknowledging when the good is happening to you in the moment. So, in order to do that, you have to put more effort into what gives you joy, what makes you happy. And this requires deliberate effort because we are so used to training ourselves and training our brain into what we messed up on, what we sucked at, what we fumbled our words at, what didn't come across as coherently or eloquently as we wanted, and focusing on the positive, right? So you're learning from that negative, but simultaneously also acknowledging what went well for you. And so last week I gave a talk, I gave two talks, but one of them in my mind was a disaster. Steve, who, as you know, is my husband and he works with me full time. He obviously attends all my talks and we do a debrief after every single one. And I was so annoyed at myself for that talk that he had to remind me that there were so many great things about what you did. Okay, maybe you fumbled your words, maybe that slide didn't go, but immediately my mind went to, look at that transition between slides. It was pitiful. Look at this joke. It didn't land. Look how I fumbled this sentence. Look how I mumbled my words here. Look how I didn't engage the audience. That's all I was thinking about, was how that talk didn't go well. And when you give a lot of talks, right? That's my full-time job. They're not all going to be winners. Some of them are just going to be flat. Sometimes the audiences are different. The energies are different. But immediately my mind went to, that was shit, I'm shit. And so I had to consciously, and it was difficult. I honestly, I couldn't do it for the first hour. It took me an hour to like get over that. And then I had to reframe and be like, okay, what went well? What went well? Just acknowledge the good quality there and then start moving through the mistakes. So it took some active work for me to acknowledge that. So what do we know about the research? The research shows us that when we take the time to notice, and linger with these positive experiences, what happens? We increase our happiness. We decrease our stress. So this is linked to greater levels of happiness. So then we also have to have that second technique, right? Savoring was the first one. The second one is gratitude. You've heard about this. Gratitude journals are everywhere in the bookstore. Everyone's talking about it. And this is about recognizing and acknowledging and being grateful for the good things in your life, in the good things in our life. But oftentimes we focus on what we don't have. Whether that's the money that we don't have, the job that we don't have, the relationship that we don't have, the body that we don't have, the love that we don't have, and we focus immediately and consistently on everything that we do not have, instead of flipping it and being grateful for all the things that we have. And we need to be grateful for the big things, right? Health and family and all of that, but also all the small and insignificant things that we are grateful for in our lives. And that requires us to radically reframe our thinking in order to be happier, in order to be more peaceful, right? So there is an exercise that Dr. Neff and Dr. Germer talk about, and she talked about it in the training, and it's in both of the books. And the first exercise is to walk outside and be in nature and just acknowledge whatever's bringing you joy outside. Whether it's just the smell of nature, walking around and it's peaceful and it's quiet, to just spend 15 minutes outdoors and to just notice whatever's coming, to not try to enjoy, but just be in that moment. So for instance, today I went hiking with Steve and Ryo, and we went with our neighbors, and we hiked for 4 hours, and it was phenomenal. And I can't tell you how many times during the hike I said, "This is awesome. I love this. I'm so happy right now. Look at this. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. It's so scenic. Look," I was just reveling in the moment. And that's really what savoring is about. And that is what this exercise is, sort of being outside and being grateful for being outside. And I did this exercise in my sociology of health class. And I asked all the students, and it was about 80 of us in the class last year, and I asked all of them to go around and share, if they wanted to, what they were doing on a regular basis to be grateful for, whether that was savoring a moment or showing gratitude. And it was really so heartening and lovely to hear each and every one of them, almost the whole class, give their own personal, detailed description of what they did on a daily basis. Some of them it was weekly, to ground themselves and to feel grateful. And some of them had a weekly practice of calling a friend, of calling their parent, and just having a 30-minute call, a 15-minute call. Some students met up at a weekly spot for coffee. Some went to a yoga class. Some went outside to walk. Some just went to grab a coffee and went and sat in front of the fireplace. Some just curled up on a couch under a blanket. Some just did some of those soothing touches that we talked about last week. But you know what was really great about that is some students didn't have any practice about this. And by listening to everybody else in the class talk about that, it made them realize that they were perhaps missing something fundamental that could make them happier. And so afterwards, they talked about consciously trying to find that activity that made them feel more grateful. Okay, so the second exercise to help you with gratitude is to acknowledge and write down 5 big things that are important to you and that you're grateful for. 5 big things that are important to you and that you are grateful for. And then you're supposed to write down 5 small and insignificant things in your life that you would normally overlook, but that you can now recognize they are something that you are grateful for. So the first is to write down 5 big things that you're grateful for, and the second is to write down 5 small and insignificant things that you would normally overlook, but now that you are recognizing that they are grateful. And then you're supposed to sort of reflect on, was it easier for you to be grateful for the bigger things in your life, like family, friends, loved ones, colleagues, a job, maybe you have good health? Was it easier for you to reflect and show gratitude to the bigger ones rather than the smaller issues in your life? So the way that I practice this on a regular basis, now I aim to do this daily, but it doesn't happen. But the way that I try to do this is I have 2 gratitude journals. One is called the 2-minute. I'll take a picture of this also. It's called the 2-minute mornings, a journal to win your day every day. And this is by Neil Pashrisha, and he's written a few books on happiness, on positive psychology. And so this journal, it's the same question every single day, the same question. And the question is, I will let go of, and then you're supposed to write it down. I will let go of what? It's just supposed to be one sentence. I am grateful for, you write down what you're grateful for. And then the third thing is, I will focus on, and you're supposed to list 3 things. So, let's see. Okay, so I will read you one. So I wrote down, I will let go of perfectionism. That's a big one. I am grateful for, I wrote down my multitasking script went amazing. That must have been when I was on the social. So I was proud of myself for my multitasking appearance went well. What am I also grateful for? That my mom and my dad got to share in the experience of seeing me on live television. So they were in the audience, and that was a really special moment because I remember making eye contact with them right at the end of that segment and tearing up because I saw my parents tearing up. And I think for the well, maybe it wasn't the first time, but I felt in that moment that I had made them proud and that they were confident in my skills and that they knew I was going to be okay in life. And I will focus on trying to relax more, having fun in the sun. This was in the summer, and hanging and spending more quality time with family and friends. So that's just something small that you can do. On other times I wrote down, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I had a really great conversation with Ryo this morning. So it was just like all the little things, right? So that's a really awesome journal that I do. And the other grateful journal is called Grateful, because when you stop and look around, this life is pretty amazing. So this one's even shorter. So as you can see, it's just that you're supposed to fill in one of these a day. And this is 3 things I'm grateful for today. That's it. You just write down 3 things that you're grateful for today. And it's organized by months. Let's see. So I wrote down here, this was like Halloween. So I had to teach on Halloween. So I wrote down, I'm grateful that my friend Annie could take Ryo trick-or-treating. 2 was I'm grateful for having donuts with my friend Jess during our office hours as we were both teaching that night. And I'm also grateful for Halloween candy. That's what I wrote down for my October 31st grateful. So it can be just small things, but I actually truly enjoyed having that donut. I remember that, having that donut with Jessica and just chit-chatting in the office. Oh, hi, Derek. Actually, Derek, do you remember that exercise that we did in class when I asked everybody, we went around and I asked everybody about what they were doing to like basically for self-care, what they were doing on a weekly basis or a daily basis to show that they were savoring the good moments in their life. Marta, oh my gosh, Marta Boots, hello. Marta and I worked together at the Bobby Brown counter, I want to say like 12 years ago. Hello, beautiful Marta, and congratulations on being a mama. Okay, Derek, back to my question. Remember that question in class? So I asked everybody, what are they doing on a regular basis that sort of savored the moment, self-care, showed that they were grateful for everything? Do you remember that? And everybody was going around and there was some like really great stuff. Yeah, do you remember any other good ones, or did you want to share what you were doing on a regular basis? I remember people were doing like yoga and having coffee and reading with their friends and chit-chatting with friends on the phone. And I don't know if you wanted to share anything. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just remember being like really pleasantly surprised that my undergraduate class, quite a few of them were actively trying to generate gratitude in their daily lives. Okay, so I'll do an IG story about those gratitude journals. Okay, so now let's talk about self-appreciation. What does the research say about self-appreciation? Okay, so we know that the negativity bias that we spoke about earlier is so strong. You eat donuts for self-care. He eats donuts for self-care. Yes, I many a time ate donuts before lecture, Derek. Many a time. Okay, so the negativity bias is so strong for many of us that self-appreciation doesn't come easy. Self-appreciation for many of us makes us feel uncomfortable. We don't like the spotlight on us. We don't like acknowledging the good qualities in us. And for some of us, sadly, it can even feel wrong. It can feel really wrong to do that. But because we constantly dwell on the negative, we ruminate over our mistakes, we draw attention to our inadequacies, and we don't put enough attention on our progress and our successes, our perspective of who we are is completely skewed because of that. Our perspective of who we are is completely skewed. So how do you receive a compliment? How do you receive a compliment? Think about the last time you were complimented on something and what your immediate go-to reaction was. Did you say thank you? Most likely not. So many of us, way too many of us, minimize the compliment, we push it away, we deflect it, and we put attention on to somebody else. So in my talks last week, as soon as I was done the talk, I had a few women come up to me to share their own aha moments and to share that they also deflected praise. So one woman in particular had won 2 awards. I think it was 2 awards for her teaching, or was it her research? I can't remember. Do you see what Derek wrote? Oh my gosh. Well, Derek, your wife is a wise woman. Hi, Elaine. So she won 2 awards, and the immediate thing she said was to talk about the other people who were nominated for this award that were better than her. That's the immediate thing she said. Instead of saying, thank you for acknowledging me with this award that I've now won 2 years in a row, her immediate reaction was to deflect, to minimize. And so when I was speaking, it reminded her that she had done this. And so she came up to me afterwards to talk about how she's now going to consciously try to stop deflecting praise. So why do we do this? Now, there's a gendered component of this. Many of you have heard me speak about this. It's called feminine modesty, the tendency to deflect praise. And for women, a lot of us have done this because we have been socialized into humbleness. We have been socialized into constantly being hyper aware of other people's feelings. And so we maybe unconsciously, dim our light and hold back and don't talk about our accomplishments and our successes because we don't want to hurt other people's feelings. We somehow think that appreciating ourselves can make other people feel badly about themselves. For other people, this may not be gendered, for other people, it's the fear of if we acknowledge our success, it's putting ourselves up on a pedestal only to anticipate falling off that pedestal. And so there's a really huge difference between acknowledging the truth. You just did well. You just got a promotion. You look good. You're wearing a great outfit. You just got this new job. So there's a difference between acknowledging that truth and being conceited. But we are so hyper aware of, oh my gosh, I don't want to sound arrogant. I don't want to sound conceited. And so we don't self-appreciate. And it is such a valuable and vital and sadly a rare skill to self-appreciate. We have to appreciate our strengths, our wins, our successes, and most importantly, our progress. Where you are today is so far removed from where you were, and that's progress. And we don't do that often enough, and it's a rare skill. So how can you self-appreciate while using the tool of self-compassion? So Dr. Neff breaks it down. So I'm just going to read to you what she was teaching us in the workshop and what's also in her book. So you do self-appreciation through self-kindness, and that is expressing appreciation for your good qualities just like you would for anybody else that you care about. So just like you would compliment a friend who just got promoted, you must do that for yourself. Just like you would compliment a friend who looks great today and a great outfit, great haircut, great jewelry, whatever it is, you must also simultaneously do that for yourself. And then it's about common humanity. And this is about recognizing that acknowledging our good skills helps us feel like we're all together in this, that we're not isolated, that people aren't better than us, that we're not better than others, that we're all sort of together in this. And then the third one is mindfulness. And this is about paying attention to our good qualities rather than taking them for granted. So paying attention to our good qualities rather than taking them for granted. So how do you do this? So the very first step, right? And this is, I think, the most difficult. In order to appreciate yourself, you have to recognize that it's not selfish, it's not conceited, and it's not self-centered. Self-appreciation is kindness. And we have to start getting better with this. So that's the first step, is you have to acknowledge privately, consciously, deliberately, you have to acknowledge that self-appreciation, appreciating your good qualities, appreciating your successes, appreciating your wins, appreciating your progress, all of that. Hi, Lovey. Hi. Let Mama finish this and then we'll talk, okay?
Look at this.
Those look amazing. My daughter just came back from Serbian folklore and she got new shoes. Amazing.
Can you show them to them?
Yes, I'll show them. You're very lucky that Nana and Dada bought this for you. Okay, so these are her new shoes. Aren't they cute? They're traditional Serbian shoes. No, you're not supposed to be on. No, Lovey. Okay. Give me, no. Okay, thank you, Lovey. Okay. Okay, yes, kiss. Okay, and then you're off to bed. Okay, now she got a taste of the camera. Oh my gosh. Okay, good night. Mama will come say good night. You're already up way too late. Okay, she has a dance recital on Saturday, and they had a late night practice, and my parents just brought her back tonight, and they bought her these shoes that are like made in Serbia. And yes, I know I was trying to not show her face because I don't actually show her, but yes, okay, off to bed. Okay, so that first step is recognizing that it's okay. It's okay to appreciate yourself, right? That's that first step. Second step is that recognizing our good qualities is part of being a human being. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. It doesn't mean that we consistently have these good qualities. It doesn't mean that we're friggin' superstars all the time. It simply means that we're recognizing that we have those qualities in that moment. That's it. That's it. Right? And self-appreciation is also the tool that we need in order to counterbalance that negativity bias that comes up so strongly in ourselves. We need to appreciate ourselves if we are going to counter the negativity bias, right? In order to recognize that we are a whole person. But oftentimes the negativity bias forces us to look at ourselves as compartmentalized, as broken down into these little parts of mistakes and failures and inadequacies. And that's all that we look at ourselves as, very detached and decontextualized. And self-compassion and self-appreciation allows us to look at ourselves as a whole. Yeah, we messed up. Yeah, we're not perfect. Yeah, we made some mistakes, but look where we are. Look where we are, right? So when we appreciate ourselves, it also allows us to appreciate all the people and the experiences and the books and the talks and the teachers and the friends and the families that helped us achieve those good qualities. Okay, so here's the exercise that they had us do, and it's also in the book. Okay. You're supposed to write, but if you want to, you can start off by taking some deep breaths, closing your eyes, sort of centering yourself, using a soothing touch. So whether that's like this, or that we do this, or we do this. Remember, we spoke about that last week. And then it's about thinking about 5 things. 5 things that you appreciate about yourself. 5 things that you appreciate about yourself. You can start with the small, superficial stuff, but then try to work into digging deeper and coming up with 5 core qualities, characteristics, traits that you appreciate about yourself. Okay? And then one by one, name them, and then out loud, acknowledge them, and then appreciate them. Say, and you can use whatever phrase you want, right? You have to come up with a phrase that feels personalized to you. You can be like, hey girl, your generosity is pretty awesome, right? Hey girl, that was so good that you hosted that party today and you were so hospitable, and whatever it was. Or hey, you really showed up for a friend, or hey, you're a really good listener, whatever quality that is. You sort of have to name it, right? And offer yourself that self-appreciation for each of those 5 qualities, just 5. You have to come up with just 5. And then the last step is think about how you developed each of those qualities. And you most likely developed each of those qualities because someone, something, some experience helped you develop those qualities. And so by appreciating other people who helped you develop that quality, it helps you recognize your common humanity. Another exercise is to consciously, reminds me of that video that went viral where the little girl's in front of a mirror saying, I love my, oh my gosh, yes, I posted that on my Instagram. That's such a great one. I love myself. Yes. That was so funny because she was just loving herself. Yes, I love my hair. I love my mom. I love my house. Yes, exactly. And it was so innocent and so lovely and so pure. And So we need to get back to that. So the last exercise that I'll leave you with is to consider how you react to compliments. So you may want to just write this down. Just take like 5 minutes to do this exercise. How do you handle compliments? What do you say? What is your body language like? And what do you feel? Is it easy for you? Do you say thank you? And you're like, yeah, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And you move on? Or does it feel weird? Do you feel uncomfortable when somebody compliments you? Do you still sort of say thank you, but you're like, oh, okay, let's change the topic? Or when you get complimented on something, do you immediately deflect it, change the topic? Or do you dismiss it by saying it was just luck? If I can do this, anyone can do it. Or reframing it to praise somebody else. Oh, no, don't look at me. Look at Derek. Look at Elaine. Look at Melanie. Look at Jacqueline. Look at all these other people who are doing great things. Don't look at me. So the first step is to recognize how you handle a compliment. And then the second step is to dig deep about why. Why are you so uncomfortable handling a compliment? Does that come from your childhood? Does it come from school? Do you have other people in your family that can't handle their own greatness, that can't handle their own successes and wins and good qualities, and they deflect? And spending time, I mean, this is not something you're going to solve in 5 minutes about why you have difficulty saying thank you and owning it. In my talks or my workshops, I often bring this up. And sometimes a lot of women get really miffed with me for this. They get really sort of annoyed. And they're like, you know what, Maja? We don't have to walk around being so super confident. It's about being humble. It's about being polite. It's about being nice. And I was like, okay. Can you maybe just start at the base? Like, just take a baby step and try saying thank you, not minimizing, not deflecting, not dismissing, just saying thank you 10% of the time. Could you just try 10%? Do you think you are worthy of 10% of the time saying thank you? And just being in that uncomfortable moment, in that uncomfortable space. Thank you. That's it. And then work your way up to 20%, 25%, maybe? Could you just try that? When I reframe it that way, the energy changes in the room. And I can see women going, oh, shit. I've got to be able to start saying thank you 10% of the time. I've got to be able to get to a point where I am not dismissing and minimizing myself and undermining myself and just owning it. And so that is my ask to you, is to try to consciously reflect on how you handle compliments for the next week. Are you deflecting? Are you minimizing? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you owning it? Just try to be conscious of that and to maybe 10% of the time say thank you. Okay, everybody. That's it. That is it for Holiday Monday. I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you so much for joining in. And I will do an IG story on the 2 gratitude journals that I use. And I will do an IG story on obviously the 2 self-compassion books that I was using. So that is about it. Thank you. And we save them again, just as a reminder. We save these and then they go up onto YouTube. Hopefully we'll put it onto YouTube when?
Tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, tonight or tomorrow, this episode will go up onto my YouTube channel. Thank you, Derek. Good talk, Doc. And what else? Oh, yes, I have an imposter syndrome. I have an imposter syndrome workshop Sunday, June 9th in Oakville.
Tickets still available?
and it's from 11 to 2. And you are still up, Missy. You should be in bed. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good night.